Hey, YouTube. My name is Anthony. For those of you that have seen some of my wife's videos, Melissa, I'm obviously her husband. And we just, I guess, a little bit of an intro. We resell on three platforms: eBay, Amazon, and Poshmark. Um, my wife kind of does most of the clothing sourcing and listing for eBay and Poshmark, and I'm doing the majority of the work on Amazon. So she's put up a few videos already. I haven't gotten around to doing any, and so mainly because I've been just sweating the details, and so in the spirit of Gary Vee, just going ahead and getting some content out there and stop worrying about everything else. So I wanted to share on this video our first month with Amazon. Now we've been selling about 2.5 months now. So as far as what this content's going to contain, this is just me kind of sharing our journey, right? We're not coaches or experts. We're just beginners, kind of sharing our journey along the way. Um, from the standpoint that a lot of times I feel as people get farther down the road, they don't remember some of the minute things they went through in the beginning. So maybe we can share some of those things that some of the more experienced sellers don't necessarily hit or remember to share. So with that, um, our first 30 days. All right. So we actually started with within our home. Now, I did ask my wife went through the majority of the registration process, and she actually did it all, um, or we did it on a existing account of hers. We didn't create a new account. We used her account, and she applied for it. I guess it took about 5 days, and the one bit that she could share on that was that it asked for, so you're going to provide your social, your driver's license, and then what was the other thing she said? Bank account information. So she said with the driver's license, though, she was submitting it on the computer, so she tried to scan it in and submit it that way. And I don't know if it was a quality issue or what, but they didn't accept it. So she actually ended up going on her phone to the application, going to the Amazon website through her phone, and submitting it that way, taking pictures on her phone and submitting it that way, and that worked out just fine. Like I said, about 5 days. I guess I've heard of some happening sooner and some happening taking a lot longer to get approved. I'm not quite sure what causes that, but that's how we got started. Now, as far as sourcing or where we started, once we got approved, we obviously downloaded the app and we started by scanning everything in our home. Now, my wife and I, we actually have a sort of a network marketing type of background. So we have a few books, quite a few books that were leadership based or sort of self improvement type of books. And those actually uh, had decent value, obviously. So we initially just getting our feet under us with the new platform, started by scanning all these books with the Amazon app, and anything that had value, we actually ended up listing merchant to begin with. Um, Now we did have I mean, as far as FBA, we did jump in and get a pro account right off the bat. Um, that was kind of shooting from the hip. We didn't really think through that too much, but we ended up selling more than 40 items in our first month, so it was fine. Not something you necessarily need to do, but we just kind of jumped in right away, and it worked out okay. As far as our first scanning, again, we went through all the books in our home, and we weren't really concerned about profit. We were more it was about the learning curve, right? Learning how to evaluate books, how to list them, and go from there. So anything that wasn't a loss, we sold, um, and that ended up. It was kind of for two reasons. This is right around that was the beginning of Q4 when we started. So we actually because a lot of this stuff that we learned, I would say probably 95% of uh, what we learned when we were getting started came from Reezy Resale. So shout out, thank you, sir. Um, but the majority of our information, I mean, we don't know anybody who resells. We didn't sign up for any coaching or one-on-one or anything like that. Everything we learned came from YouTube and online groups, Facebook groups, things like that. And Reezy was a big part of that for us getting started. So we everything we learned, he actually has he should still have it a playlist. When you go to Reezy Resales, go to his playlist. He has one for books, for selling books on Amazon. I believe it's like 91 videos. I watched a big chunk of those as far as getting educated to get ready to do this whole thing. So, again, the whole point of that. This was right around the beginning of Q4 when we were kind of going through our personal inventory of books, and he had mentioned something that, oh well, if you want to sell toys, merchant fulfilled in Q4, that you need to have at least 25 uh, merchant orders prior to a certain date. Now, for not sure where everyone's coming from watching this video to know the difference between merchant fulfilled versus FBA, which is why most people go to Amazon. Um, FBA, or fulfilled by Amazon, means you ship it in and they take care of everything there. They hold it, store it until it sells, and then they ship it to the customer, deal with the customer service, the whole A to Z guarantee, all of that. Where merchant fulfilled is where you hold the item yourself, you wait for the sale, you get notification, and then you package it, put the label on it, and ship them out individually. So that's kind of the main reason why we wanted to, for two reasons we started doing items merchant fulfilled. Again, to get our feet under us. If you make mistakes, and this is straight from Reezy, mistakes are more easily corrected with merchant fulfilled orders than Amazon fulfilled orders, because then you have to get them shipped back to you, and there's a cost associated and time and everything else. So we went through our inventory, got a bunch listed, and then from there, now again, this is just with our app, just with the Amazon seller app, and now we did initially, the first piece of software we got was a free trial of FBA Scan, which is now Scoutly. Um, so a free trial with that, and it's a 30-day trial, and it felt a little weird in the beginning getting signed up because we had never done anything like that. So it automatically asks you for like access to your Amazon account, and you have to go in and set it up. But hey, we got it set up, and then we were kind of using that to evaluate books um, as well. So we kind of started out with the app, but before we got through our full inventory, we switched over to using the Scoutly app, which is an app I prefer, and I'll share more details on why with that later. But use that to kind of evaluate our books, all of our pricing um, qualifications, or however you want to put it, are when we're scanning through something, what we're looking for as far as profit, based on sales rank, all came from Reezy in the beginning. Um, it wasn't anything too crazy. If it could make $10 or more, then we did FBA. If it was less than that, then we did merchant fulfilled. Now this is only for this period. That later changed, but this is getting started in the beginning. So we went through all of our inventory with just the app, and then this free trial. And then at that point, once we got through all that, the next thing, I actually did a trip on a lunch break to a thrift store with the app, and went through scanning some books, and realized just how slow that is when you only have a certain amount of time to get through or to scan. So after that, we actually bought a scanner off of eBay. I got a really good deal, $60 on a Opticon 2002 2002 model, and then got that and set that up for the next trip. So that's about as in depth as we got with hardware, software, whatever you want to put it, supplies or materials, things like that. When it came to the beginning, our first 30 days, we simply had Amazon app, Scoutly trial, and a Bluetooth scanner. Everything else we already had. We didn't spend any other money on anything else. But that allowed me to do a couple more trips and actually start to be a bit more efficient with scanning and putting things together. Now, outside of that, let's see. Oh, so our volume for the first month. Now we did, just kind of getting these numbers here right. I wanted to get 75 total sales. So like I said, even though we probably jumped the gun on the pro account, which I guess maybe I didn't really cover that. When you sign up, you can sign up as for a seller for a pro account or for the regular account. I'm not sure what, or base. I'm not sure if it's called basic or what exactly it is, but The difference is between the two is if you have a regular or a basic account, Amazon will charge you $1 fee for every sale, every transaction on their platform. Where if you have a pro account, it charges you a flat fee, $39.99, which is why $40 is the threshold to determine whether or not you should go pro, because then you end up losing money for every sale after 40. So we actually did 75 sales within our first 30 days. So even though we a completely just off the hip decision to just jump in with the pro, it paid off. It does have other advantages. When you have the pro account, it does allow you the option to, maybe wrong, I should double check some of this, but it gives you the option to have buy box and to be ungated in other categories. Now that I'll cover in a different video. We did apply right away to get ungated in some things, and a few things we did, but majority of the things we did not. And now that I think about it, I think I could be wrong. I think you may be able to get the buy box even if you're not a pro seller. So maybe I'll have to follow up on that one. But I know for sure you can't get ungated unless you're a pro seller. So it does have that benefit. But so what we ended up doing was in that first 30 days, we had 75 total sales. 41 of those were FBA, and then the other 34 were merchant fulfilled. Like I said, we were kind of doing a mix of both because we wanted to make sure we hit that 25 merchant sales for Q4 for toys. And we did hit that, but we didn't read the fine print enough. You also needed to have a sale by within some date range earlier in the year, which we didn't have that. So we weren't able to qualify. But even if we knew that was going to be the case going in, I would still, if I had to do it over again, would still go about it that way because, again, the experience. I believe you should start off listing merchant first because it's going to let you understand the platform a little bit better, what's going into the listings, see your mistakes because, again, the learning curve is going to be a lot steeper, obviously, in the beginning. But any mistakes you make, you can correct. We made plenty of mistakes with listing SKUs and amounts and things, and we didn't realize one of the things you can't, at least at our knowledge at this point, once you list an item, you can't go back and correct the condition. So we did make mistakes on a few items as far as the condition it was listed under. And the nice thing about merchant, we just deleted that listing and then relisted it with the correct condition. But again, I'm going to throw up just a quick snapshot here of my seller app after those 30 days, just so you can see what that looks like. All right, so as you can see here, again, just about over 1,000 in sales for our first 30 days. Now, again, that is sales, not profit. Typically on Amazon, profit is about 30 to 40% of your sales, depending on, again, how you're pricing your things and whether, because you could sell something low enough to where all you're doing is covering your fees and you're not really getting profit. But yeah, these are just the sales numbers. And again, it's obviously more of a ramp up towards the end as we were getting more inventory in. This was a combination of, as I mentioned, we had 41 FBA items and 34 for merchant. And that was a combination of 2 boxes because we weren't that adept at packing and getting the boxes. 2 FBA boxes because we weren't that great at getting those in and packing those to max capacity. But yeah, just a quick look at the numbers there. And we actually don't have much in the way of profit just for those 30 days because we, to be honest, weren't all that concerned with tracking it. Again, this was more about the learning curve. Can we find things that people will buy? Can we ship them to Amazon in a condition where they'll get them, list them, and people will buy? So it was more, does this even work, right? Can we do this properly so that it works? And so I will get into profit when I talk about kind of our first 3 months in selling. But just to kind of wrap things up from our first month with just a couple of mistakes we made, things we would do a little bit differently if we were restarting all over again. First off, we did kind of have a slow start. I believe once we got approved, quote unquote, I took a few days, probably 3, 4 days, just like I mentioned, going through Reezy's how to sell or selling books on Amazon playlist. Something I could have probably done on the front end, but again, if you're jumping in as a pro right away, you want to make sure you can hit those 40 sales. So we had a bit of a slow start based on that. Other mistake would be book conditioning. We were a bit overzealous with some of the book conditioning. Now, I believe we listed, now this was out of our personal inventory, so a lot of stuff was in better condition, but we listed a ton of books as like new, and we rarely list anything as like new these days. But yeah, the book conditioning, we probably would do differently if we were doing it now with a bit more experience. And a couple other things, we did actually end up losing money on a couple sales. Not sure if it was just based on a typo in the pricing, the listing price when we put it up, or in the how would you put it, in the that we were repricing something to make sure we were the lowest and didn't remember what the profit margin was on it, or what. But we did actually sell some things at like a 50 cent loss or something less than that. It wasn't huge, but it just didn't make us a profit. We profited in experience, I guess you could say, on those sales. And the big thing, though, one of the biggest mistakes we made was the scanning app settings, which is something I should probably cover in another video. But there's certain things, especially if you're using Scotly, that you want to make sure are in order before you start scanning books. One would be the cost of goods. Now, when your cost of goods is zero, it's hard to mess that up. But I had actually gone out and did some scanning, and the books there were $1.50, $2. And so I had my cost of goods set at, like, say, $2. And then I came home to scan books, didn't put it back to zero. And then for the numbers were off, or the profit was messed up on the books. So it can be for that, or shipping settings, or scanning for FBA when you're in the merchant mode on the app, and vice versa. So yeah, just a few things that we kind of ran into in the beginning, but um, hopefully that was not too boring of a video. Just wanted to get some quick information out there. Say hey, introduce myself. I'll be doing more kind of documenting our Amazon journey as we go, and hopefully it benefits someone. Again, hopefully there's some people out there that could benefit from some new beginners sharing their journey. So with that, thank you again for watching our video, and take care. Till next time.